A troubling statistic that I saw recently was that many more people's jobs fail within 18 months of hire, where the employee fails on the job. And that really bothered me. I read the statistic, and to what percentage compared to, say, 20, 30 years or beyond ago, not exactly sure, but it's at an alarmingly high rate. And so I wanted to share this video with you as, especially as a business owner, if you are. You may not own a company, maybe watching this as an employee, and that's okay too, because you'll get some value in this. But for you business owners, the statistic is bothersome, but I think I have a sense of why it may be. And we'll talk maybe toward the end as far as how might you overcome it, okay, if you have that situation. So the employee comes into your company, and he's doing a great job for a year, 6 months or a year, 18 months, you start seeing him falter. That seems to be the trend in a lot of companies, again, much more broad than historically. Well, so I thought about, well, what would be causing all that? I don't doubt that there are people who will analyze that kind of thing, and they'll have all sorts of data points, and they can figure out exactly why this is happening. But I think it boils down to something more simplistic. We have a shrinking labor force of people. Much more difficult it is to find people today than only 3 or 4 years ago. And so when we don't have an abundance of staff, and with profits being squeezed because costs are so much higher, and you can only charge so much for your product or service before no one buys your product or service. So you can't just raise your prices just because. This isn't gasoline after all, right? So you have a squeeze on profits. You have a smaller workforce than you would otherwise maybe have had 10 years ago. So you don't necessarily, so you as an owner are finding yourself wearing many hats. Starting out in a small business, you may be doing everything, and then you eventually get people. And then you can start backing away from the hands-on stuff in the business, and you're in your corner office working on the business because you have people, right? Okay, well, that's changed a little bit for many industries to where the owners are wearing more hats. Well, then they have less time to, let's have a staff training day. It'd be nice if you could have a weekly or every other week meeting for an hour or two, and maybe once per month or once a quarter, have an actual full training day going over how people do what they do to ensure that they're remembering what they're learning, because we only remember a percentage of what we learn, right? And we don't do our employees favors by assuming that they just know everything once they're out there. No, they may need some remedial training, some reminders and some updates on products or what have you in terms of how to do what they do best. Or then they find themselves maybe in that category of 18 months and they're failing, and we wonder, why is their job quality suffering? Maybe it's just reminders as far as how we take care of our customers, not so much the technical aspect of the work. But I think that's part of the challenge, because these meetings, when you are challenged in profitability, you're paying people to sit there for a day of training, and you're paying them, like I said, a certain amount of money per hour, $15, $20, $25 per hour, maybe more, depending on what their rate is, with no revenue coming in. If their job is revenue generating work, and they're sitting in a training room all day or half a day, that's money spent, and it can be very expensive, against zero money coming in. So I think as an owner, and we own a small company, and I've had to grapple with this, but the decision I've come to is to accept that once a month or once every quarter, we're still dialing this in, we just spend it. We bring the employees in, we cover their lunch for the day, we have a training day. Training on not just how to do the work, but in terms of our customer service and those kinds of things, keeping people top of mind as far as the quality work that they're doing, how to do the work if they forget some things, because remember, we only retain so much of what we learn. And it's good to be reminded. It's good to be reminded, to have a refresher. It's good to have that. So as long as we manage our profitability across time versus day by day by day, and we're hitting our profit goals each month, each quarter, even with those, I'll say, non-revenue generating training days, if across time our profit goals are being met, then we're good. Then you should bake into the equation training days so that people can be more successful, so that they are more aware of what they're doing, so that they can also provide input. So it's not just a day for you as the boss to sit there and just pour information and train. They're just receiving like a child in second grade. No, this can be interactive. You can have a training portion, and then like a back and forth meeting portion, and then a training portion toward the end of the day. However you structure it. Or training for the first half of the day, and then an informal back and forth meeting where you talk about what are you experiencing, what are some of the challenges you're having. Bobby, Susie, Jill, Bob, John, whatever the names are, and have an open conversation, and lots of ideas may flow. You may say, from what you all have experienced in the field, let's assume it's a field type of job, what are some ideas or some things that you've noticed, I think, that, or rather that would generate some ideas of how we can improve? See if you can, have some improvement that way. They feel much more empowered, I'm supposed to say empowered, but a much more valuable part of the team if their input is allowed, right? And that then might just heighten their awareness of the quality of work that you want to have done and their willingness to, frankly, put in the quality. So giving your employees that much additional ammo to do a great job and to succeed beyond 18 months will help prevent them from being in that statistic that I just mentioned, that so many employees are failing at their jobs after about 18 months. That's a year and a half. So they're great for a year and a half or a year or so, and then they start doing this number, and then they crash. Well, we as employers we have to get creative maybe about it, but we have to find a way to make them successful, because if they're successful, we are successful. If our employees fail and leave the company, or we have to move them out of the company because of them failing, it may be on us. It may be on them 100%. That could happen. But it could also be on us. And without employees, we don't have a business, right? So we do need the employees. We need quality people. But let's find a way to make that happen and help our people not be a statistic. Well, I hope this helps you a little bit, maybe a lot, gives you something to think about at least as a small business owner. And as an employee, profits are not bad. Don't poo-poo your boss because he makes maybe a lot of profit. He can use those profits. Maybe he chooses not to, but it is his money after all. But let's say he takes that profit and has opportunities to provide other sorts of training opportunities and tools and those sorts of things that make your job more fulfilling. You need to be flexible enough in your thinking to allow for that. He doesn't require you to allow him to do that. That's his or her money, I should say. But don't frown on the boss because he makes profit. Because what if the company for which you work has a downturn, some major crash in the market? The profit that's being held up here may float you through that dip, if you will, allowing them to come out on the other side. Versus profits are down here, and the market falters and he's out of business. You're out of a job. So you better pray that your boss has a lot of profit and is smart with the money and, helps secure your future with that company. Well, enough of that. I'll let you go for now. Thank you for watching. If you got value from this video, please like, subscribe, share, do all those great things. And I will see you in the next video.